to Julie's Wreath Boutique. We're going to make this adorable flower wreath, and I hope that you will enjoy the process of this. We're going to use a 12-inch wreath frame, 2 rolls of the pink poly burlap, 1 of these yellow cinctures that I got from the wreath shop, and some green poly burlap if you want to add leaves. Those are totally optional. But I hope that you enjoy this process, this method. It is a new petal for us, and I hope that you enjoy this video. So let's get started. Okay, so the first step we're going to do is we are going to put some plastic grid on the inside of our 12-inch wreath frame. I know I'm using a 12-inch wreath frame. I'm throwing you guys all off. I usually always use like a 10-inch and occasionally an 8-inch, but today we're going to use a 12-inch for this wreath. You can get these wreaths at Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, any craft store. The 12-inch wire wreath frame is a very standard size. So this is all you need to make a great wreath. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline the part on my 5. This is the 5 grid mesh, or the 5 mesh of the plastic canvas. And the reason why I use this one is because it's a lot more flexible and the holes are bigger. You can use the 7 count, it's okay. It's just going to be a little bit harder to put your zip ties through. So I'm going to cut this out, and then I will connect it to the inside of the frame with zip ties. All right, so we're going to use 10-inch poly burlap. So for this particular petal, this is the petal that we're going to be making, you really want to use the poly burlap. And I'm going to tell you why, because the poly burlap will hold its shape really nicely. So I'm going to recommend that you get the poly burlap. Now, here's my most asked question. Where do I find poly burlap? Well, you can find it at places online called the Wreath Shop, and I will leave my affiliate link below, craftoutlet.com, trendytree.com, and I do know that the Michael's craft store does carry it. I have not heard great things about it, and it's a little bit pricey there, and you get a smaller roll. So I'm not sure that I would really recommend the Michael's. This is the fuchsia color, and I believe I did get this at the Wreath Shop, and they do have this in stock right now as of the beginning of February. So I'm going to just cut this in 10-inch squares, and I'm going to use my rotary cutter. We're not going to need to use the wood burner on the petals. We will use the wood burner on the leaves, but not the petals. So I'm just going to cut some at 10 inches each with my rotary cutter. And this is why this cutting mat, and why I use it so much, is because it's just really easy to cut your mesh. And once you get one of these, I think you'll really enjoy it. And I have all of my tools are in my Amazon shop, and my link will be below. Okay, so let's work on the petal. So we're going to take our piece 10 inches by 10 inches. We're going to make a triangle, okay? So you're going to look at this as thirds, okay? Here's a third, here's a third, and here's a third. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch up one side where I want the third, and I'm going to pinch up the other side, okay? So at this point, I'm going to bring them together, all right? And then I am just going to bring my sides together as well. So this is where I'm going to shape my petal, and you could have your petal looking a lot different than mine. But what I like to do is I like to have it more elongated. So I will like bring down the sides of it, and I just want it to look, and I even kind of bend this part this way. So I want it to kind of mimic what I've already done, so which is that petal right there. And I like it because if you look, it kind of flips underneath of it. Okay, and this is why I recommend the poly burlap, because it will hold its shape nice. So I'm going to just take a 4-inch zip tie and connect it together. Okay, clip that off, and I'm going to show you a tool that I use, and that this exact tool is not in my Amazon shop, but there's one that's just like it that does the same, has the same blade technique here. These are really sharp, so you got to be really super careful with these, okay? But I like them because they cut a big piece of that chunk off really good. Okay, so let's make one more of these so that we're sure that you know what you're doing, okay? So you're gonna make that triangle. Okay, so you're just going to, I'm gonna put it to the side. I'm going to grab 1/3 here and 1/3 here, okay? And then I'm gonna bring them together in the middle, okay? So then I'm gonna just bring one side over and one side over, and this is where I'm gonna play with my petal because I want my petals to kind of be very kind of uniformed, and I want them to be elongated a little bit. All right, so that's looking good. All right, then I'm just gonna take my zip tie, and what I would recommend, do this, have all your petals made first, okay? Oops, gotta do that one again. And then that way you're ready to put it on the frame, okay? So I like the two little bumps there that kind of help form that petal. I'm gonna take my cutters here. And so I'm gonna keep making these petals, and we're going to come back and we'll start putting them on our wreath. Okay, so now that we have our wreath frame ready to go, and I have some petals already gathered together and the ends cut, I'm going to start putting them on my frame. I'm going to take an 8-inch zip tie, and honestly, if you'd rather use a 4-inch zip tie, go right ahead. I just find it a little bit easier to do the 8-inch. So what we're going to do, and we've talked about this before, we have bar 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to take your zip tie, and we are just going to go underneath bar 2. I'm going to take one of my petals, and I'm just going to simply attach it to the frame. Okay. Now, if you think that this like turns a little bit, I don't think it's really going to make a big difference. You can take another smaller zip tie, and if you do it the opposite direction of the previous zip tie, it just kind of will straighten out your petal just a little bit more for you, okay? So that's really just kind of an optional thing if you like want it to be a certain way, okay? So I'm gonna just keep going. I think we're gonna put about 3 of these petals on, but we're just gonna keep going around, and I wanna lay them so that the petals just touch, that they're not overlapping in any way. So I'm going to do the next one here, and we'll figure out how many we're going to do. There we go, per section. And then you have to remember there's a back, and that's what my back looks like, but this is the front, and it has those 2 bumps, those 2 pieces that we put together there. So I want to just make sure that I'm putting it on the right way. So I checked with my friend Sarah at thewreathshop.com, and my link will be in the description box below. But if you're watching this at the beginning of February, she should have this poly burlap in stock. If not, she's going to have other colors for you guys, and she's going to have the yellow centers. So all right, so make sure you check out her link in my description box. Okay, so now we're going to see. So 3 seems to be about right. You know, if I move these over just a little bit, let's just move these over. Okay, so I think what I'm going to tell you to do is we're not going to worry about this crossover bar. So I'm going to come over here, and like I said, I just want the petals to touch. I don't want to overlap on them. And I think 3 petals per section here is going to be good. All right. So that one's going a little sideways. So when it goes a little sideways on me, I'm just going to take my other zip tie and just go the opposite direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to go all the way around, and we are just going to put the petals on the first section here, and then we will talk about the second row. Okay, so how cute is that? I'm really loving the way that this is looking and that this is going. So let's start on the second row. So we started on the bar 2, or the second bar. So now we're going to skip to that 3rd bar in front of it. So what I want to do is I want to just take, and I want to basically lay a petal in between each of the petals that we did so far. Now, This is a 12-inch wreath frame, so because it's a 12-inch wreath frame, that means I have 6 sections, and we have 3 petals in each section. So that means we're going to do a minimum, you will need a minimum of 1 roll just to do the first and the second row. So because you should get 36 petals out of, or 34 petals. It's 36. I'm sorry. I'm not good at math. If I was good at math, I don't think I'd be a grafter, let's be honest. But anyways, so I'm going to do 3 rows of my petals. You could do this on a smaller frame and maybe use a 10-inch and just do 2 rows in order to do 1 roll of poly burlap mesh. But I have a second roll, so I'm going to use that second roll. So let's start on that 3rd wire frame right here. So I'm just going to take my actually this, because the bar is over and in between those two, I'm going to start at this bar section, and we are going to, let me show you how I put that zip tie. So one end comes out this way and the other end comes out down below. So you're just going to take one of your petals and you're just going to lay it right in between those two. Okay. And so what I'll do is I will keep going all the way around. And I just want to lay it right in between. All right. Because we want to cover up any of the places that, so they don't see the zip ties. If you are on Facebook, I would love to have you come and join my group, Wreath Creators and More. If you love to craft, if you like just to look at crafts and look at people make beautiful things, we would love to have you join. The link is in the description below. Also, if you're on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram. I'm needing some followers over there, and I would love it if you would go over there. I'd like to be able to leave a swipe up thing in stories so that I could leave my YouTube channel. So when you guys are looking at that, it would be easy for you to come. I'm really liking how this is going. I think that's really pretty. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'll be right back, and we'll do the last row of petals. Okay, I'm going to interrupt this whole tutorial because the more I do this petal, I think I find an easier way to do it. I know I've showed you already how to do it. So just make your triangle, your 10-inch. So I just bring them together there, and then I'm just going to match the bottoms of this together. And then I'm just going to bring it together, and then that's when I just kind of pull on it, and then I've got my petal. All right, so we have both layers of our petals on. I did find that getting 18 petals on this layer and 18 petals on this layer, I did have to cut into that second roll of poly burlap. So I would really, if you're going to use a 12-inch frame, buy 2 rolls of poly burlap. If you're going to use a 10-inch, it'll be perfect. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our zip tie, and I'm going to go in about 1 inch. So if I count the squares, I'm going 1, 2, 3, and then 4 if you count them diagonally. So I'm going to just put them in like so. I'm just going to put my zip tie in. I'm going to take my petal, and then I'm going to adhere it with the zip tie, or fasten it, not adhere. Okay, so on the inside of this, I don't think we'll use 18 petals just because I really don't want these overlapping, but I do want to make sure that it covers it really nicely. So like I said before, if you wanted to end with just 2 layers and make a nice big center, you could do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do a 3rd row of petals. Okay, so I'm just going to lay that in there. And then I'm just going to go all the way around until I have this all full, and then we're going to work on our center. Okay, so now we're going to do the center for this wreath. Now, here is the finished wreath, and I think it's super cute. But I'm going to do just a simple yellow pre-made center. You can get these from the Wreath shop as well. Again, my link is in the description box. And so these are called the flower centers. I believe they're just under $3. So they kind of save you time and money by just being able to put one of these in, and it looks really realistic. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our wire here. You could even use pipe cleaners if you wanted to. And I usually use these floral pens. These are in my Amazon store as well. But what I did was I cut them down. Do you see how small those are? It's because the foam is not that, thick. So we don't want it too big. So I'm going to just put 3 of these right down here. And this is just the easiest way I know how. I'm going to reach over here for my glue gun. Okay, and I'm just going to put some glue on a back of just a scrap piece of felt. Okay, and I'm going to lay it over top of all those pens that we put in. So not only do we have the pens holding the wire down, now we have glue holding it down. And just as a more of a precaution, I just take a pen. You can just take a regular pen if you want, and I go in at an angle while that glue is hot, so that it adheres well too, and it's gonna stuck there. So this isn't gonna come off on us. And we'll just let this sit, and we're gonna do our leaves next and let this dry. So now we're gonna put on our leaves for our flowers, but I am gonna use my wood burning tool for this process just because I don't want the edges to fray as much. And so I'm just going to, I have a piece of glass that's underneath here, and this is the tip. This is the chisel tip. One of you guys told me what it was. I appreciate that help. So you're just going to cut this at 10 inches each. And because we have 6 sections, I want my leaves to go all the way around this wreath. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut 12 pieces of the green poly burlap mesh and 10 inches long, okay? And so I'm gonna get those all cut out and then we'll put the leaves on the back of the wreath. Okay, so now we're gonna do our leaves. Now, this is the 3rd time I've filmed this. I'm gonna be honest with you. Every time I do the leaves, I'm not happy with it. So I'm gonna do a 3rd attempt on how I want the leaves to look. And sometimes, the creative process requires us to do a little bit more work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a zip tie and I'm going to run it through right underneath the 2nd bar. And I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to run it through here, okay? So as you can see, I ran it right through underneath that 2nd bar. So here's bar 1 and there's bar 2, okay? So I'm going to get my leaf, and we are going to meet it in the middle. These are 10 inches. Remember, we cut them at 10 inches. And we are going to do that, okay? We're going to do our little scrunch technique. So you know how I have you guys do that one petal that's like this? Well, I'm going to have you do the same thing with this leaf. So now I'm going to take this leaf and I'm going to put it down and secure it and make sure that the top of the bend here is touching this right here, so that just a little bit, not a lot, but just enough of this leaf is popping through over our pink petals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around with 5. I thought actually I need to cut another one. I'm only going to put 6 leaves on this. I think I told you before I was going to cut 12. Ignore that. We're having technical difficulties. We're going to do 6. Let's see, 6 of the leaves all the way around, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So as you can see, you're just going to put 1 leaf on each bracket. So I'm going to flip this over. And as you can see, I just think that is just the right amount of leaves that I needed. And sometimes, it takes me a few times to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want this to look? So I'm going to get the center and we're going to put it in, and I'll be right back. All right, so now I'm going to just take the center. We're just going to take the wires and you're going to go down through the center of your wreath, through that canvas, and just pull it down. You just want to make sure that it's covering everything really well. And then I'm just going to, here, I'll flip it over and show you. So I'm just going to twist it. And what I do is I just stick my wires right down inside the frame. I probably should like trim that a little bit. Put the wires down in the frame, and then I will cut out a piece of felt, and I'll leave my how to cover the back of your wreath video down. It's really quick, but I'm just going to put a piece of pink felt on the back of that, and that is your finished wreath. So once you've kind of laid it, you want to kind of take all the little petals or the leaves or the whatever you call them, petals, and just kind of mess with them a little bit just to kind of give it a little bit more volume. But I am really happy with the way that turned out. Now, if you made it this far into my tutorial, number one, I appreciate you. I appreciate that you take the time to watch my tutorials. It means the world to me, and you guys' comments are amazing. Okay, but if you made it this far, leave me a flower emoji or something that reminds you of spring. This reminds me of spring. It reminds me of sunshine. That's why I used the pink today. But listen, follow me on Instagram. Go to Julie's Wreath Boutique on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook, Julie's Wreath Boutique. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button, make sure you click that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you can get alerted when I do release another video. Make sure you check down in the description box for my Amazon shop, my affiliate link for the wreath shop, and make sure you join my wreath group. It's for anything crafty. If you like to craft, we would love to have you. Make sure you join my group. Check out my tutorials that are on Etsy that are a little bit more of a advance or just different kind of styles. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sharing your time with me, and we'll see you next time on Julie's Wreath Boutique.